It was around 2 in the morning. The rain had stopped, but the air was still heavy with moisture. On the outskirts of the city stood a deserted, broken-down building, Ramat Medical Complex. It had once been the largest hospital in the city, but for the past 10 years, it had been abandoned. The story begins with Adil, a 32-year-old night guard, hired by the new owner to watch over the hospital. The owner had told him that he would only need to guard it for a week, until the new construction work began. Adil had laughed and said, "Sir, it's a hospital, not a den of ghosts. What's there to be scared of?" The owner said nothing, except for one sentence. "Do not go to ward number 13 at night, no matter what happens." Adil brushed it off as a joke. But that night, after drinking tea and stepping outside, he felt as if someone had closed the door behind him. There was no one there. His boots echoed through the hospital corridors. Half of the lights were out, and the rest flickered intermittently. Old posters hung on the walls. "Wash your hands, save lives." And below, written in what looked like blood, "Life no longer saves anyone here." Adil jumped. Who did this? He turned on the flashlight on his phone. Along the way, an old wheelchair sat in the hallway, and it started moving slightly on its own as if pushed by a breeze. Adil tried to calm himself. It's just the wind. Nothing else. But when he turned the corner, a small nurse appeared, her face pale, hair falling over it, holding an old hospital file in her hands. Adil asked, "Ma'am, who are you?" "The hospital is closed." She didn't speak. She just pointed with one finger toward ward number 13, and in the next moment, she vanished. Adil's breath caught. He tried to run, but his feet made a sound. "CHUP, choop." He looked at ward number 13. The door was closed, but faint light seeped from underneath, and inside he could hear slow, deliberate footsteps. Adil tried to use the intercom, but the line was dead. Then suddenly, a voice came over the hospital speakers. Rayhan's, the patient who had died in Ward 13 10 years ago. The voice was scratchy, like it was coming from an old recording. "Keep the door closed." "It's outside." Adil's hands shook. "Who's outside?" But there was no answer. Only the sound of drip, drip, drip. Water falling, which slowly started to sound like blood dripping. Summoning his courage, Adil opened the door. It was pitch dark inside. The beam of his flashlight barely pierced the darkness. In the middle of the room stood a bed, covered with a sheet. He slowly approached and lifted the sheet, but there was no body. Only his own reflection, looking out from the hospital window. The flashlight slipped from his hands. Something moved in the back. When he turned, the same nurse appeared, but this time her face was no longer human. Her eyes were black voids, and from her mouth came a scratching, scraping sound. "I told you. Don't come to Ward 13. Adil screamed, but the sound vanished inside the hospital. Adil's scream had vanished into the darkness of the hospital. The door of Ward No 13 shut by itself, and the lights outside began to flicker, one after another, until the entire hospital was swallowed by darkness. When morning came and the hospital's owner, Sir Khalid, arrived, Adil's flashlight was found near the main gate, but Adil himself was nowhere to be seen. Police were called, the entire hospital was searched, but no body was found, no sign, no trace. Only one thing everyone noticed. On the door of Ward 13, there were deep human nail marks, as if someone had clawed the walls from the inside. The owner decided he would never go there alone again. He called his old friend Dr. Hassan, who had just returned from Paris and specialized in psychological cases. After hearing the story, Dr. Hassan said, "It could be nothing more than a delusion, or perhaps someone is deliberately trying to frighten you. I'll stay at the hospital with you tonight." At 10 p.m., they arrived at the hospital. The generator was running, yet the light still flickered. as if some unseen force was trying to turn them off. Dr. Hassan placed a chair in front of Ward 13 and switched on his recorder greater than. If any spirit or energy exists here, he said, make your presence known. At first, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the hospital's speaker system crackled, and a familiar voice echoed, "You came back." Sir Khalid froze. How is this possible? The speaker system is turned off. Dr. Hassan whispered, "Quiet. I want to see what happens next." From the recorder came a faint sound, like whispers drifting through the air. Then a soft voice said, "I'm still here." In Ward 13, both men turned toward the door. A faint laugh came from inside, the giggle of a child at play. Dr. Hassan gently pushed the door open. Inside was complete darkness. They turned on their flashlights. Strange markings covered the walls. Some looked like human hands, others like animal claws. And in the middle of the room stood a bed, with a name scrawled on the sheet, Adil -14 October. Sir Khalid's face went pale. Who wrote this? He disappeared that same night. Suddenly, the lights went out again. The entire building plunged into blackness. Moments later, the lights flickered back, and someone was standing behind Dr. Hassan, long hair, a torn nurse's uniform, and a face identical to Nurse Saba, who had vanished 10 years ago after Rehan's death. She whispered softly, "You shouldn't have come?" Dr. Hassan spun around, but she was gone. Only cold wind remained, and from somewhere deep within the hospital came a familiar scream. Sir Khalid turned toward the recorder. A new sentence had appeared on the screen. "It's not over yet." Dr. Hassan's voice trembled. "Greater than. Whatever this is, it's not human. This place is no longer just a hospital. It's a place of possession." And then the ward doors slammed shut by themselves. The lights went out once more. Only one faint glow remained, coming from under the bed. Dr. Hassan reached down and picked up a file. On its cover were the words, "Patient, Rehan, status, not dead." At that very moment, blood began seeping from the ward walls, and every monitor in the hospital flickered to life. Across all the screens, a single sentence flashed repeatedly. "Welcome back, Doctor." The rain had started again. Lightning flashed across the sky, and the wind passing through the hospital windows screamed like a soul in pain. Dr. Hassan held a file in his trembling hands. "Patient, Rehan status, not dead." He kept staring at it and whispered, "This is a lie. This can't be true." But the very next moment, the file opened by itself. Strange symbols appeared on the page, and smoke began to rise from the paper. Then a new line slowly wrote itself, "Greater than." "Dr. Hassan, you are too late." The room began to shake. Light bulbs shattered from the ceiling, and blood splattered around them. Mr. Khalid screamed, "What's happening? We need to get out of here." But the door was locked. Someone had sealed it from the outside. Only a dim light flickered, enough to cast trembling shadows of the two men on the wall. Then a voice came from the old hospital speaker. Rehan's voice, but it no longer sounded human. It was deep, echoing, distorted, greater than. "You broke your promise, Hassan. You said you would never come back." Dr. Hassan froze. "Greater than. How does he know my name?" Khalid looked at him in shock. "Greater than. You know him?" Hassan's eyes filled with terror. "Greater than. Rehan was my patient 10 years ago. I performed an experiment on him." He paused as if crushed by the weight of his memories. "Greater than. Rehan wasn't mentally ill. He was dying. We tested a new serum, one that could keep the brain active for a few minutes after death. But something went wrong. Rehan didn't die. He got stuck between life and death." A shadow moved across the wall, tall, distorted, faceless. It stepped closer with each flicker of the light. Rehan's voice echoed again. "You never gave my body back, Hassan." Now your body will be mine." Khalid pulled out his gun and fired into the darkness. The gunshot echoed through the empty halls of the hospital. When the lights came back on, Dr. Hassan was gone. Khalid was alone. Panicking, he ran out of the ward. One by one, the hospital doors began to open on their own. From every room came sounds: children laughing, someone breathing, footsteps following him. He ran to the reception. The old telephone on the counter started ringing. He picked it up. Rehan's laughter came from the other end, followed by a faint whisper. "You said this place would be sold? But now, this place belongs to us." At that moment, all the hospital monitors flickered on. Every screen showed Khalid's face, but in each one, he was dead. He screamed and stumbled back. Then, from the wall, a hand emerged. Long, blue fingers with broken nails, wrapped around his throat. He struggled, but his breath stopped. The door creaked open, and Dr. Hassan walked in. But he didn't look human anymore. His face was pale, eyes sunken into black voids. He smiled faintly and said, "I told you. Rehan didn't die. He's inside me now." Lightning flashed through the hospital, illuminating everything for a brief, blinding moment. The entire building trembled. Then darkness returned, and the hospital was silent. No Hassan, no Khalid. No one. Only one thing remained: Dr. Hassan's recorder still running. It captured his final words. "Greater than. Rehan, if you can hear me. This Ward 13. It's not yours anymore. It's mine." The recorder clicked off. The camera slowly drifted through the empty corridors of the hospital. On the walls, written in blood, were the words, "Do not enter after midnight." As the camera neared the door of Ward 13, the door creaked open on its own. Inside, complete darkness. Then a faint light appeared, revealing Adil standing there, exactly as he was when he vanished 10 years ago. He looked straight at the camera, smiled faintly, and whispered, "Now it's my turn." The door slammed shut. The hospital fell silent once again.